Hey, it's Jeremy from Jeremy.net. I'm a comic book artist, writer, creator, and I share my creative process here with you online. If you would like to get bonus additional live streams, be able to read my comics for free online, tons of behind the scenes, blog posts, and artwork, you can become a Patreon subscriber at patreon.com/Jeremy. It's patreon.com/GERIMI. If you'd like to get a free digital sketchbook and see animated GIFs showing my works in progress, and then additional blog posts, just sort of my day-to-day creative process work, you can sign up for my monthly newsletter at newsletter.jeremy.net. And if you'd like to get physical copies of my comics, if you read digitally on Kindle or Comixology, you can go to amazon.jeremy.net. They'll forward you to my Amazon author page. You can pick up books like my first graphic novel, Eye of the Gods. This is a self-contained psychological thriller about a man cursed with visions he cannot control. Or you can pick up volume 1 of my current series, Morningstar. This tells the story of Lucifer's fall from heaven as a Western. This book contains issues 1 through 4 of an 8-issue series. And in the coming weeks, I'll be dropping volume 2, containing the conclusion to the series. However, if you're somebody who reads single issues, or maybe you've met me at a convention and you've picked up the individual copies, there's still copies left of issues 5, 6, 7, and 8 available at jeremy.net. That's my main internet hub. You can go there to find all of my social media, my Instagram, Twitter, any place else that you might find me on the internet. So let us get started with today's stream. Let's see, I see Amaris is in the chat. How you doing, Amaris? I see Byron's here. How you doing? All right. So let's just dive into this. By the way, a couple of weeks ago, I had mentioned that I was going to try using a green screen, so I can have a background behind me. I have tried it. I have a green screen. For some reason, it does not seem to work on my laptop. I don't know if it's because my laptop doesn't have enough power to run the live stream and do the green screen at the same time. I may try running it from my desktop computer at an earlier date, but at least broke out the green screen, tried it. It's pretty big. It kind of fills up the space between here and the wall, which is good. But if I turn my chair in either direction, it doesn't quite work as well as I'd hoped. So we'll have to see. I mean, in the end, the best thing would probably be if I had my setup so that I was actually against a wall and I could just have the green screen on a wall behind me. But enough about that. I just wanted to tell you, I didn't forget about it. I thought about it. I tried the green screen. I wanted to do it. Didn't come together. So we're back to doing some standalone artwork here. I'll probably do more studies in the future, as I've been doing studies for the past few weeks. You know, the Gustav Klimt studies, the Bouguereau studies and such. But I felt like getting back into doing some illustration work. And I'd started doing that series of Medusa pieces. I actually still have the other images within this file. So I've got all of the thumbnails that I was doing, the tattoo one, a couple of different ones. And honestly, I think that this original one I did, I'm probably still going to come back and take another pass at it, because I just keep looking at it and I feel like I didn't quite nail what I was going for with the finished piece that I have up for sale now as a print. So I'm going to probably come back and give that one another shot. But for now, I just thought, let's go in here and take one that I do like, because I do actually like this piece a lot, and just come in here and refine it a little bit. So I'm going to drop the opacity and refine the line work a little bit. Although it's weird, I'm kind of coming from two different mental headspaces. Part of me is looking at this and saying, I should work from silhouette outward and kind of add some detail. And part of me is also saying, just do the line work and get that worked out. So I'm not sure which way I'm going to go, but when in doubt, I find it's just better to just pick a direction and go. If it ends up that it's the wrong direction, I can always go back and start again. It's even easier when you're working digitally. Let's see. I see Yadi is in the chat. He says, hello. It's so nice to see you draw. Well, thank you. Thank you for dropping in, and hope you enjoy it. definitely stick around, subscribe to the channel so you can find out when I'm doing it more often. Let's bring the opacity of this down real low. About 30%. That's low enough that maybe even a little bit lower. No, let's keep it 30. There's some details in there I don't quite want to lose. And let's lock this layer. And I don't know why, but my instincts are telling me to draw this in a different color. So let's see here. In fact, let's right from the jump, do I want to flip the whole canvas or just this particular image? Let's see here. Let's flip the whole canvas. So that's something I mentioned frequently, that tool of flipping your artwork to be able to see the mistakes that you make. Let's turn the opacity up on this brush. I will tell you that because I've been spending so much time doing, I guess I'll drop that a little bit lower. I've been doing a lot of book layout work, getting Morningstar Volume 2 ready. And because of that, you know, I haven't been drawing every day. In fact, a lot of times it seems like I might only draw like the days when I have figure drawing class, and the rest of the time I'm just sort of not futzing around, but I'm just not working on the actual artwork itself. And I need to get back into, whenever I go a few days or longer without drawing, it becomes a bit of a process. It's almost like I have to relearn how to draw every time that I take a break, which, if anything, just encourages me to not take breaks. Let's see here. I see Corey's in the chat. Hey, Corey. Hey, thanks for dropping in. Jay King is here. Amar is here. Hey, everybody. We are back to doing some Gorgon pieces, some Medusa pieces. I'm just blocking in the head here. And I'm experimenting with like kind of new ways of dividing up the skull. I'm trying to do this thing where I'm actually using a secondary circle on the side to block out the side of the head. And then I kind of come under and get the underside of that all the way to the back of the skull. And then I kind of aim for the middle of the arc, this arc that I've created here. I aim for the middle of that, and then I kind of go from the chin to that, and I use that as kind of a division between the front plane of the face and the side of the plane of the face. It's interesting because in doing this, I'm trying to make the skull feel more solid, more three-dimensional, but at the same time, this process definitely stiffens up your drawing. So it's kind of a tightrope in terms of trying to get the drawing to feel more structural, but at the same time, you don't want to just make it so stiff that it loses its energy and flow. Let's see here. See Amar in the chat. He was talking about some stuff, some vaccine stuff. He said he went ahead and took it. I'm glad to hear that. Good for you. Hope that it makes work life easier and that it helps keep you nice and healthy. We're having a chat online about the pros and cons of doing that. And you know, I avoid talking about that stuff on this channel only because some people have real serious political reservations about it, and that's not necessarily something that I'm not interested in telling people what they should or shouldn't do. I just do what I have to do in terms of like keeping myself healthy and keeping my family healthy. But I understand that people have concerns. I mean, a lot of Black people, we have a history of the medical system not working great for us. History, we've got a modern, still like that. So I understand the reservations, but I'm glad that you're doing what's going to be best for your work. Let's see here. Amar is asking how far I got in this series, and I've got the other thumbnails open here. I haven't really. This is me the first time I'm going back in and actually trying to take things a step further, because the farthest I got was probably a few weeks ago when I had, mind you, I flipped the canvas, so this is all backwards. But I have like the two pieces I did on the upper right. There's the one that I ended up finishing, which is the one in the top right corner. Like I actually made a finished piece of that I have a print of. Then I have these next two, and the second from the right is the one that I'm refining now. I have the one that's in the bottom, and the one with the girl getting the tattoo. I really like that one, but I really need to come in and rework that, rework the composition, because it's not there yet. But I felt like I just wanted to take one and just move it forward, because I haven't been doing any finished pieces, and I realized that's something that I tell other friends of mine when they aren't doing finished work often enough. I'm like, you got to finish pieces. I took one where I had the woman standing, and it's really just a simple pose with the serpents come out for, and I started refining this one. So I like this one as well too. But I thought, let me just take the one that I felt was pretty solid. This is a pretty simple piece, just a portrait of her, her face in shadow with then light coming down onto her torso. And just refine it. See how far I can take it. I've been thinking a lot also about you'll see this in one of the Patreon blog posts, because I made a note of it. But I don't feel like a lot of the pieces I have been doing recently feel finished. They don't feel as finished as I'd like them to. Finished, polished. And what I want to do is make a list of some artists to kind of compare my work to. And it's not a matter of doing comparisonitis, where it's like, oh, I'm bad, and if my work doesn't look like theirs, I suck. It's not anything negative like that, but it's more just saying, all right, what are the artists who are the artists that I feel do make finished looking work? And then kind of making a list and pulling it's more of an inspiration folder, but then looking at that inspiration folder and comparing my work only in the sense of saying, all right, what is it that makes their work feel finished, and what is my work lacking? And then just have like a folder to kind of create almost like a checklist of things to compare my work against, and say, all right, am I doing this? Am I doing that? Am I adding these kind of details? Are my silhouettes strong? Am I adding the right amount of texture? Am I adding too much texture? Am I adding not enough texture? Creating kind of a list of things that I want, like what makes a piece feel finished to me. And then try to bring those elements into whatever pieces I'm working on. So that is a project I'm probably going to spend some time doing over the course of this week. Let's see here. Cassiel is here. And Byron says, finishing pieces is a slight bane of mine. I'm a heck of a sketcher. Love me some sketches. Can do it all day. That's me too, man. I love the sketches. Amar says, I'm working on a series of owls for this month. I'm calling it Owltober. All right, that sounds cool. I look forward to seeing it. Cassiel says, your method to draw heads remembers Michael Hampton. Well, I'm probably, honestly, my approach in terms of breaking down the head is more from Carl Ganas. I'm not sure if you've seen his channel. I'll put his YouTube channel in the chat. but he's who I've been studying with for decades. Well, not decades, but more than a decade now. Let me find his channel, and I will pop that in there in the chat. I would say that my approach is also really influenced a lot by Andrew Loomis. Definitely, Loomis is a big influence on my work as well. But yeah, I'm gonna post a link in the chat, and I will try to remember to put this in the description for the video later on. But if you want to check out the work that I've been studying in terms of the head construction, Carl. In fact, I'm actually taking Carl Ganassi. He has a class right now on heads, hands, and feet, and I am taking that class at the moment. His classes in general are the kind of thing where you learn something new every time you take it. Because I've taken this class before, and I will take it again. Each time I take it, I learn more. So I keep coming back. Yeah, Amar says Hampton is still really new, and nothing is new because it's more likely a version of something that's old. Said that now seem new as well. I mean, yeah, you look at somebody like Bouguereau, or hell, even Leyendecker. J.C. Leyendecker was at one point the most famous artist in the world, like as famous as Norman Rockwell. And I believe he was before Rockwell. And then, at one point he just fell out of favor in terms of public appearance. I mean, in terms of public, not appearance, but just, public favor. He fell out of favor. I think probably a lot of that is due to people becoming fans of modern art and less representational art. I mean, there's a lot of great illustrators that I think fell by the wayside due to the interest in the modern contemporary art world. But now, in terms of people that are fans of illustration, Leyendecker has come back into favor. And, a lot of people are fans of his work now. I've only seen a few of his originals. There's a place in California, in Northern California, or actually Central California, a museum that has some Leyendecker pieces. But there was an exhibition that they had in Fullerton, California, probably. Oh wait, no, that was that a Rockwell or a Leyendecker exhibition? No, it was a Leyendecker exhibition, and I got a chance to see some Leyendecker paintings in person, and they are amazing. I mean, you can even look at stuff like the Marvel What If series. If you look at those pieces, they very specifically say that they're one of the styles they were inspired by for the animated series is the work of Leyendecker, J.C. Leyendecker. For those of you guys who don't know, look him up. It's like imagine if you kind of blended the design sense of Alphonse Mucha with the rendering and composition of Rockwell. I mean, I love Rockwell, but I think that Leyendecker is sort of more interesting only because there's a bit more design in there in addition to the beautiful compositions. Let's see here. Amar says there are other people and they will be gifted and turned into NFTs. Let's see here. Yeah, Amar says that's good. Learning something new is always great. When that stops, it's time to move. And Castiel says, I like your style. It's very constructive. Thank you. This is something that we've been going through in the art book study group. The idea of really trying to build the figure almost as if it was a 3D model. that you could see through and feel all of the the major volumes, the bones, the muscles. And I've always actually really liked drawings and artwork where I can see the construction lines in it. And I think that might be one of the challenges that I have in terms of that thing I mentioned earlier about wanting my work to feel more finished, is that the artists that I admire most have very loose expressive styles. Like when I started making a list, the top of the list is Bill Sienkiewicz. He's been a major influence for years. And then after that, David Mack and Ashley Wood. And if you're familiar with any of their work, their work is very loose and expressive. So then it's like, well, of course my work doesn't necessarily feel finished, like polished, I guess is the word that I am trying to express. My work doesn't feel polished. But that's because the artists I really enjoy aren't particularly polished. So I'm in this interesting space where I'm asking, well, should my work feel a little bit more polished, or is the amount of polish that I have in there right now just right? And I think the only way I'm going to find the real answer, and this is what inspired me to get back to making some finished pieces, the only way I'm going to find the answer is by making a bunch of making completed artwork and finishing it and just saying, all right, does this capture what I want it to capture? Because one of the things I've also been thinking heavily about is the idea of making things even less finished, in the sense that trying to find what is the bare minimum amount of detail that I need to put into a piece in order for it to feel complete. Something that I've been wondering, questioning. Can I actually take something that's really little more than a thumbnail and then just refining? It's not a matter of adding a lot of detail. It's about a matter of adding just the right detail in order to make it a completed piece. And these are questions that I don't have the answers to. I feel like the answers, and this is something I also mention a lot when just talking to other artists, is that a lot of times the answer is in the making of the work. This isn't something that I think I can reason out and logic out. I think this is something that I just have to make pieces, see how they do, and then say, oh, okay, I want more polish here. I want less detail there. This probably should be sketchier. For instance, maybe just remaking the same piece more than once. One time in a detailed finished version, then another time in a very loose, sketchy version, and just seeing how it comes out. Amar says, finish it. Let's see. Cassiel says, I see a lot of Disney artists combining structure, form, and gesture, making constructive gestures. I see this in the Dinosaurs Rite of Spring from the movie Fantasia. Wolfgang Reitherman was the man that draped and animated those dinosaurs. They have gesture, but you can see structure based in the boxes in your anatomy. Oh, so draped, drew, and animated. I see what you said. You're corrected there. Yeah. Yeah, Disney animators are amazing at creating that sense of gesture and structure. And that's the challenge, is how to capture the energy of those gestures without making something feel kind of boxed off, without making it feel a little bit too boxy. I think what's bothering me about this is that I'm not sure what to do with her arms. I feel like I should do something else with her arms. I'm going to erase the arms I have here. And I'm going to see what happens. Now, this is what's interesting. The lower torso, well, everything below her breast is going to fall into shadow. But I still feel like I might be able to make this a little bit more dynamic by creating a twist so that, her upper torso is facing slightly towards us, even though we're getting kind of a profile, like a 3/4, but to take like from her pelvis down and make us that's twisting almost away from us. So it's going from 3/4 towards us to a near profile. In fact, I'm just going to remove that her arm altogether and just figure out if I want to do something different with that arm. Sometimes you got to just scrape away what's on the surface of a drawing and say, all right, let me come back and reassess what I can do here to make this stronger. I try to not be afraid to just destroy a drawing if it's going to lead me to something more interesting. I see Dizzy's in the chat. Dizzy says, yo, hey, good to see you, Dizzy. Yati asks, is the head a bit too large? You know what? You may be right. The head probably is a little too large. But I think, if anything, I like the way I have the head in the composition. So you are correct. What I think I'm going to do is make the torso larger instead of making the head smaller. So if the head is this tall, let's say that this whole portion up here is the rib cage. That is a little bit more in proportion. And thank you for catching that. Proportions are notoriously my my bugaboo. If I'm not paying attention, I will go all the way to the finish, and then I'll get like you can see me work on this and then work on this for like 2 weeks on a live stream, and then have the finished version, and then look at it and go, you know what? That head's too big. And then I got to grab the whole thing and lasso it and shrink it down. And because it's a Medusa, I've got to adjust all the snakes, and it's a whole thing. So you catching that now helps me quite a bit, and I appreciate it. So let's say this is our rib cage. There's the split in the middle of the thorax. Shave a little bit off of the corner here. So the real question is, what do I want to do with that shoulder? Let's see here. Cassiel says, I have some trouble to draw the zygomatic and superciliar arch. Can you show me how you draw? Well, the zygomatic arch, the way that I tend to approach it, I go through a little bit of a different approach now and again. I'll tell you the best way to get a handle on how to draw it is to get, let me see, where is that guy? Oh, here we go. So I've got two skulls. I've got this guy, which is life size. So this is a big old, full size skull. This thing, if you can afford them, sometimes you can find them for under $100. I actually think I got this one on sale. I ended up only spending like $50 or $60 on it, which is a bargain. But otherwise, you can get like a small skull for like $20, 20 or $30. The ones that you can get for 20 or $30, the quality is decent for drawing from. But I will tell you, it's not as nice as Proco has a little skull that's about the same size. And I think his is like $99. The difference is that the detail in his little skull is the same quality as like a big full-size skull. It's a great skull. But I mean, I was able to get this thing for less than the size of this small one. If you're budget-minded, be aware that the smaller skulls aren't going to have as much detail. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying one is better than the other. If you've got the money, get this guy. But if you don't, you'll get the small one. But let me see. Probably easier for me to draw with the small one. I'm not drawing with them. I put my headphones over the skull. So that's Byron says, "Poor Horatio, we hardly knew ye." We're getting a little Shakespearean up in here. All right, so let me try and draw it from the angle that I'm actually looking at it here. So the main thing, let's say this is the mass of the skull. Trying to figure out where to put the brow line. So you've got the brow line going all the way around the figure. And the thing that you want to know is where the side of your head ends and the front of your head begins. Because basically that is where you're going to place the zygomatic arch. So let's say that this is the side of the head. Let's say that they're looking upward, kind of like I have in the picture that I'm drawing. Let me switch back to large style. Let me zoom in a bit. So if you've got your cheekbones halfway up the face, the zygomatic arch, basically you've got the corner, that's the side of the head, that's where the arch is going to go. And what I find actually helps is, instead of trying to draw a line for the zygomatic arch, is to draw two lines. That for me is the big secret. Make this a little bit slimmer and erase out some of the detail in here, because this is a little bit, I need to lower the opacity on this. This is getting a little muddy here. Let me just knock all this back a little bit. All right. So for me, drawing the zygomatic arch, the big trick here is, when you know that this corner is where you're going to do it, place it, is to actually draw the thickness of the bone. Instead of just a single line, you want to draw the thickness of the bone, but you want to know that's going to come backward. It's going to come heading towards the back of the skull, but then it's going to jut forward a bit. The part of it that's jutting forward ends up following the cheekbone as it goes back towards the ear. So if you're looking at the whole side of the skull, it's actually wider outside the side of the front plane of the face. So if you're going to draw the whole eye socket in there, This for me is how I build in the zygomatic arch. It's going both backwards and out to the side. And that might be the reason why you're having difficulty with it. It's because you might be trying to draw it either going straight down, or you might be drawing it going just backwards. And the problem is that it does both. It goes slightly back and slightly down, but then halfway down through the eye socket. And you can actually see, you don't, in the little skull that I have here, you don't see it that well. But if I go back, again, jumping back and forth here. With this guy, you can see how it goes back and then comes forward again. The top part going back, the bottom part coming forward. So hopefully that answers your question. Let me know if you need a little more follow-up. But what I would say is, even if you don't necessarily have a skull to draw from, a skull to draw from is best, so you can study on your own. Second best, do you own any art books that that cover drawing the skull? Because the next best thing I would recommend is drawing from an art book, and also getting some reference, getting photos of skulls. Again, photos, because it's two-dimensional. Because it's one-dimensional. It's a camera with a single edge instead of having with a single lens, instead of having the two eyes, the binocular vision that humans have. Because of that, everything in a photograph is going to be a little bit distorted and flattened out. But still, it's better than nothing. So if you can find reference to draw from, that that kind of breaks it down. You know, that's something that you can sit there and practice from. Because I find that's the main thing. It's just drawing what I'm having trouble with multiple times until I figure it out, until I piece together and go, oh, wait, that's why it looks weird. Let's see here. Amar says, I don't know if I will ever learn the terms for the technical body parts, but I know how to draw them. And Byron says the same. As long as I know the shape, I don't need to know the name. Yeah, for me, the only reason why I know the names of different body parts is because I've been taking figure drawing classes specifically for so many years. And at a certain point, you start picking up the names. I don't think that it's necessary to have like an encyclopedic knowledge of the names of the bones and muscles in order to be a good artist. It comes in handy. And it's something that I think a lot of artists do definitely talk about, you know, when you're working. It makes for a shorthand when you're trying to describe something to someone else and you just name the bone or the muscle. But is it absolutely necessary? No. I will tell you that I had a class one time where part of one of our assignments was to make an entire chart where we drew the whole skeleton, and then we had to label every bone. Then we had to put an overlay of tracing paper on top of that and draw every muscle on top of the skeleton and label every muscle. And I actually found that to be a very very good exercise. It's probably something in Art Book Study Group that we're going to do, because we're getting near that. We're doing the anatomy section of the Andrew Loomis book. So I think that's something we're probably going to do soon. Turn this off and take a look at the face underneath. Yeah, Amar says I've been drawing for ages. He says you think it would make me sound more educated, but I just draw what I know. Yeah, yeah, all true. You know, it's funny. Byron says, I think it's only especially useful if you're teaching drawing or if you need to look up something highly specific for reference. And then Amar says, now if I became a medical illustrator, that would be different. And what's funny is I actually considered becoming a medical illustrator when I was in high school. That's actually one of the things I was considering doing. But at the time, my anatomy instructor, we actually had an anatomy course in high school beyond just basic biology. And he told me that basically a medical illustrator is just a doctor who knows how to draw. You basically have to go to med school. Now, since then, I've known somebody who has gone into a medical illustration program, and I don't believe that to be true. But at the time, when I was considering it in high school, that was enough to make me say, you know what? I don't think I will be a medical illustrator because I didn't really want to go to med school. I was much more interested in the art side than the medical side. So I opted not to do that. But like I said, I don't know for sure if that is or isn't true. See, Cassiel notes so many arcs. Yeah, being able to draw good arcs and good ellipses is an important freehand skill to develop. You know, the arcs and the angles are what gives you a nice counterpoint to all of the straight lines. And I am guilty as charged in terms of I've been accused of being just my drawings being too angular and not having enough curve and rhythm to them. And I agree. My drawings are too angular. I think over time, hopefully, I will develop the ability to work more smooth, natural, graceful arcs into my drawing. But as it stands now, I very much draw very, very angular figures. But if I don't, I tend to get mushy drawings. And if I'm given the choice between being mushy or angular, I'll take angular. And a lot of the lines I'm putting right now, a lot of this stuff isn't even necessarily going to show up in the final drawing. Because you have to remember, this figure, she's going to be in shadow. For the most part, what I'm doing is I'm defining the plane so I'll know where to put the light. But in terms of just saying, okay, I'm going to need every single line that I'm putting down here, that is very much not the case. Most of the lines that I'm putting down here, all of the construction that I'm working out, it's kind of like Mike Mignola, the creator of Hellboy. You know, people always joke that it looked like why does it take him so long to draw a comic? But most of the page is just black. It looks like he should be able to knock that out. The thing is, Mignola figures out where all of the figures are going to be. He works out all of the anatomy, even though he's going to paint it all black. And this is similar to that. Even if I'm going to darken in or make most of this silhouette, I still want to understand what the figure's doing. And I think I want to draw a little thumbnail on the side here to figure out exactly what I want to do with the arms. Because if I go back here, let me unlock. Turn the opacity back up. So with this thumbnail, I just have her arm just coming down the side. And it feels a little bit boring to me. So I'm not saying that I may not still end up with that, but I'm going to bring this back down, go back up to this layer. I'm just going to play with here. Sometimes I'll do that. I'm in the middle of a piece, I'm working out the anatomy, and I'll say, I need to play with this a little bit. So even though the first drawing was a thumbnail, it's almost like I'm re-thumbnailing this piece now. starting with just simple boxes. I think I probably made the torso a little too wide there. Now the question is, do I want the arms going backwards or forward? Maybe I'll draw one of each, a thumbnail of it going backwards. Maybe this arm coming across. A simple box in here just to get the shape of the head without actually drawing the head itself in there. Now this isn't a bad pose, but it feels too formal. I want her to feel a little bit more relaxed. Figuring out the what her posture says about the piece. Byron, when I was talking about the temple, um, he says I like to call that Satan's hell pit when I get a migraine. Yeah, when I occasionally, not often, but when I do get them, it's bad right there, feeling hammers on the side of your head. Talking about anatomy, Amar said, same here. I thought it was quite interesting. He said, drawing cadavers would not have bothered me at 17 or 18. It's funny. I actually did get a chance to go to an orthopedic hospital, a teaching hospital in Southern California. And that's where they would have, medical students would go there and they would dissect the cadavers to learn surgery, basically to practice. And so practice by doing dissections. And after the college students would do it, they would have like multiple classes would come in, and it's almost like they would take the body apart, put it back together, take it apart, put it back together, just taking the organs out, seeing where everything is, then putting it back again. And after they would have like 3 classes of college students doing it, they couldn't really do that again with them. But that's at the point when they would let high school students come in and just examine the bodies, just so we could come in and get a sense of what what the human body really looks like on the inside. And I got a chance to go to this hospital and go on a field trip. Some people some kids did not want to go. Some parents wouldn't sign the permission slips to let their kids go. But my mom was a nurse and she was just like, oh, we can go see a dead body. It's fine. My mom did not care. She was cool. I say what? No, my mom is cool. She's still with us. But mom's was like, yeah, definitely go do that. So yeah, I got a chance to go study a cadaver, and we not like by myself. It was like a whole class of us. But being able to take organs out, I was able to hold a human brain and a human heart in my hand, is fascinating. And it was, I mean, we took it pretty seriously. I mean, it was a very solemn occasion. It was just, it's kind of intense in the fact that you're dealing with a human body, but it's an intense thing for a high school kid to experience. But it was also it was a very unique and thoughtful opportunity that we're all appreciative of being able to experience. Let's see. Cassiel says, I was going to do a course about drawing in the future after doing the stuff I need to do. Let's see. Byron says it was basically the same thing in Sin City. Frank Miller had to draw and compose the entire image before using the stark blacks and whites. Yes, very true. Sin City is another great great inspiration of mine. In fact, Frank Miller is going on that list of inspiration board. Well, I don't know if he again is one of those artists who I'd say he's one of the reasons why I tend towards looser art. I look at Frank Miller and what he did in Sin City, and he's incredibly expressive without having to be super tight. Let's see here. Amar says boxes and boxes and boxes. Cassiel, boxes in a nutshell. Yeah, I just yeah, these boxes are just the tool I use to work out the primitive shapes, and it works for me. Let's see here. I think I need to go back to a stick figure to work out what to do with the arms. Something a little bit more more gestural. Let's see here. Let's see. Yati says, Jeremy, I have a plea. Could you please tell me everything's going to be okay? I suffer due to going to work tomorrow where my stupid boss is bullying me and I'm away from art and it brings me pain. I just need someone to tell me that everything's going to be okay. Yati, yes, everything is going to be okay. You're not always going to be in the job that you're going to be at. And if anything, if it's possible to start looking for a different job, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be a better paying job. Just doing something that's different so you can get away from working with those people. I hope that you can. And if it's the type of job that actually, you know, the people that run the company seem like decent people, maybe it's worth talking to someone about the people bullying you and see if there's something that can be done to get you out of that situation, get you away from those people. But no one should have to stand for bullying in the workplace. And if anything, it's going to be okay. But if you can remove yourself from that position, from that job, try to do so. Try to find something else that you can be doing, even if that's not art or creative. And, you know, I personally think it's better to be in a job that's a good, healthy work environment, even if you're not doing artwork, versus being in an art job where you're working with people that are jerks. I've been very lucky in my career that almost all the people I've worked with have been very thoughtful, kind people. But these kind of situations do come up, and you're going to get through it. It's going to be okay. But if you can move to a different job, move to a different job. Get out of there. It's not worth it. And bless you, Yadi. Let's see here. And everyone else is coming in with some positive thoughts too. Castiel says you're gonna have that time you need to do to have art to escape from reality. Byron says everything will be all right, my friend. Your art will follow you no matter what. Amar says you're still alive, and as long as you are above the dirt, you're okay. Yes, very true. And guys, everyone else, thank you so much for being supportive to Yadi. We need that, you know, as artists. All of us need that voice sometimes to just tell us that. So I'm glad you guys are there for Yadi as well. I gotta tell you, I just can't decide what I want to do with these arms. I think the thing about it is that this pose is almost like it's a standing pose, like the figure is about to be doing something. And what I want, I think the tone of what the piece is a little bit more of someone that is kind of still, not necessarily moving. In repose. Repose is the word that I'm looking for. I think that before I finish this piece, I'm probably going to go and look at some Caravaggio, because Caravaggio has a lot of figures disappearing into the shadows, and maybe look at some portraits with Caravaggio. You know, it's so weird. I'm going back now and looking at that original thumbnail I have. This is the original thumbnail. So I'm just going back to this now and just thinking, all right, what do I really want? Maybe it is the arm just coming straight forward, but there's more to this pose than that. Amar says, Liefeld, those arms. You know, I like Rob Liefeld. I hope he gets a lot of heat. I'm like, man, I actually I really enjoyed like his Youngblood comics back in the day and his X-Force stuff. He gets so much crap. Let's see here. I see Yati says, why not put the hands behind her head like she's stretching? That is an idea. The thing about it is that it changes what I have going on with the shoulders. So I like this this angle that I have with the rib cage. It doesn't mean it won't work. I mean, it could totally work. It's less about the fact that that's a bad idea. It's not that that's a bad idea. It's just, does the pose say what I want it to say? Because let's say this is the rib cage. Arms going up, and then back, and then up, then back, head up here. That could work as well. See, this is how, when you talk about doing gesture drawings, this is what I tend to do for a gesture drawing. It's just either a box or, you know, an egg for the rib cage and a spear for the pelvis, and then just sticks. This is what I tend to do for gestures. So this could work. I'm just erasing a little bit because I want to go back. What I'm trying to do is tap into whatever was in my mind when I originally sketched that. Because different artists work in different ways. Some artists see the whole picture in their mind, and then they just sort of trace that picture. The way I tend to, my imagination works is that I see like sort of a hazy, foggy version of what it is that I want to draw. And then I slowly kind of carve into that hazy vision and refine it and bring it closer and closer to something that's concrete. And that isn't an intentional approach. It's not like I said, oh, this is the right way to do it. It's more that that's how my brain processes things. If I could just see the entire picture for everything I sketched clearly in my head and I just need to trace it down on paper, I would totally do that if my brain were capable of seeing that. Let's see here. Yanti says, I used to hate Rob, but I've changed my POV. He's rich and famous now. His style, his works, despite all the criticisms, a lot of success. Let's see here. Castiel says Caravaggio is very skilled, and that really impressed me. I mean, hell, anybody who's really skilled impresses me. Yeah, Caravaggio, mainly the reason why I want to look at him is because the composition of this piece is having a figure with the face cast. Well, most of the image is going to be in shadow. It's just going to be light falling along the torso. So I want to look at how he deals with gesture in those kinds of scenarios. Let's see. Yeah, Byron says the funny thing about Liefeld is that when he sits down and focuses, he can draw properly. You can see this in the old Hawk and Dove, and a few other places. He just likes drawing his way. You know what? He likes drawing his way. And there's many people that criticize him about certain anatomical things. There's a lot of people who are huge fans of the way he draws, and they like the exaggeration and the distortion. So again, come at him if you want, but he's got people. He's not worried about the people that are haters. He's worried about the people who genuinely support him and like what he does. And there's a lot of people out there. So and I do genuinely like his artwork. And it's funny. I saw something. You guys know I love the cartoon kayfabe guys, right? They had a recent video on George Steranko and his Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. work. And the image that they chose for the thumbnail that I saw, the way that Steranko was drawn, his chest looked like he had these huge boobs. And I thought, Liefeld's been getting crucified for years over the Captain America boob thing. And I'm like, here's Steranko, one of the best ever in the industry, and he's doing the exact same thing. And no one's giving him heat for it. So I just thought that was interesting. Yeah, Cassiel says Craig Mullen's process and brushwork is surreal. When he paints, he just sculpts with edges and colors and shading, and you can see them. You can see that your brushwork is very chaotic. Uses a variety of textures. Let's see here. Yeah, back on the Liefeld stuff. Amar says, I've seen that as well, but some of his statue notoriety should be better. But as Jeremy said, people love it. He said, maybe if I published comic books back in the 90s, it became popular. I'm sure it would be torn to shreds in this day and age. He says you have to appreciate that he found his audience. Well, I mean, yeah, it's one of those things where I look at a lot of different artists and I have a wide variety of tastes, and his work appeals to my variety of tastes as well. So you could easily criticize somebody as Ted McKeever as somebody who people would say, oh, well, he doesn't necessarily draw well. He draws extremely stylized, and I love Ted McKeever's work as well. If you haven't checked his work out, you definitely should. He's another guy who I think he's awesome, but he's doing his own thing, and he's not trying to fit into like the mainstream Marvel or DC house style artwork. Let's see here. Cassio says, I don't know what my archetype is. He says, but Jeremy is the teacher. You know what? That is kind of you to say. I don't know if I don't think of myself as necessarily oh wait, no, he's talking about everyone here. So he mentions I see some archetypes here. Amar's the philosopher, Byron's the pragmatic, and Joker in free time, and then there's me. And he said that I fall into the archetype of the teacher. I think that I am an eternal student. I'm always going to be learning and exploring and growing. And that's one of the things I love about art, is that there's no way I'm ever going to know everything there is to know. That's what keeps me interested. If that makes me potentially a good teacher, then I hope so. But I always feel like I have so much to learn, and I just want to share what I'm learning. Maybe that's the definition of a teacher. I don't know. All right. Like I said, I think I actually have some reference I want to look at before going too far with this piece. And we've already had an hour here. I think that the limbs on this figure I'm drawing right now are super distorted. This almost looks like Aeon Flux in terms of how distorted I have her. But I think just having the arm falling forward, falling slightly back, the arm that's closest to us, and then having one arm coming slightly forward, almost like a casual stroll. If I shave a little bit of this off, she becomes kind of like a thin, super modelly thing. So if I take this and fix these really wonky proportions, this might be the pose that I want. Very, very simple. And it seems kind of ridiculous to do all of those sketches to figure out, oh, I just want her arm to feel relaxed. But it's like when I'm starting with just the torso, like I did, where that thumbnail was just the head and shoulders, I didn't get a sense of how the whole figure connected. I really needed to figure all of that out and see a larger picture so that I can come in and do a piece that's just focusing on just this portion up here. Sometimes that's just my process. So I kind of need to see more before I can narrow things down. So I'm going to do some more work on this over the course of the week, because this is the first time I feel like I am, as we speak, when I'm done with this, I'm not going to come back and keep drawing. I'm going to get over to my computer and finish uploading Morningstar Volume 2 to Amazon to get it processed, because usually it gets bounced back and I have to make some corrections to the layout before I can actually make it available for the public, and then I have to get a proof copy made. So I'm going to finish that. But once I get that done, I'm going to get back to starting cranking out some original pieces. And I still have not gotten back into the regular habit of writing. And I got to start writing that next comic book series. But we're going to wrap that up here for the day. So again, this was a really, really great conversation with everybody. Thank you, Yadi, for sharing what you're going through. And thank you, everybody else in the chat, for being supportive. Thank you, Amar. Thank you, Byron. Thank you, Cassiel. I'm really glad you guys are showing that kind of love to each other and for each other. Warms my heart. I'm glad we're doing good stuff. And Yadi, find some time, even if it's just 5 minutes a day or 10 minutes a day. Just make sure you've got a sketchbook nearby and just have a little time to enjoy touching that part of you that gives you joy. That sounded really wrong. Touching that part of your creativity. Just being able to reach out and do a little bit of, if you can get just 10 minutes of creativity in a day, whether it's when you wake up in the morning or right before you go to bed or during a lunch break, hopefully that'll help sustain you through the rough stuff that you're going through, and hopefully you'll be able to get out of that situation sooner rather than later. So on that note, we're going to wind it down. Everybody, thank you again so much for all the great comments. And this week, Art Book Study Group, we're having it this week on Wednesdays now. We're continuing our studies of Walt Reed's The Figure. We're studying the anatomy section. Art Book Study Group is when I sit down and just do sketches and studies from some of the best art books around, just try to suck all the knowledge out of it that I can. And we do that together. That'll be this Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. But the replays will be available to watch at any time on Patreon. We've got probably at least 50 videos, maybe 60 videos up already. Definitely check those out. Also, you can read all my comic books for free, see tons more behind the scenes work. That's patreon.com/Jeremy, patreon.com/GERIMI. If you'd like to get a free digital sketchbook and get animated work in progress gifts and blog posts delivered to your inbox once a month, you can sign up for my free newsletter at newsletter.jeremy.net. And if you'd like to pick up physical copies of my comics, or if you'd like to read them digitally on Kindle or Comixology, you go to amazon.jeremy.net. That'll forward you to my Amazon author page. You can pick up my first book, Eye of the Gods. It's a standalone psychological thriller about a man cursed with visions he cannot control. You can pick up Morningstar Volume 1. It is a Western, Lucifer's Fall from Heaven, told as a Western. This book contains issues 1 through 4 of an 8-issue series. And I'll be uploading the second half of the series to Amazon soon. And if you go to my main personal website, jeremy.net, that you can still pick up individual copies. I've got issues 5, 6, 7, and 8 available of Morning Star. These are the final individual issues. And yeah. So again, everybody, thank you so much for hanging out, for joining me, for sharing. That's it for now. Go be creative.